Who still remembers Pampero Furpo? Who booked the screw job in Montreal? Who has a good friend named Weasel Dooley? Everyone knows it's corny. Who managed Bobby Eaton and Condrey? Who managed Stan Lane and Dr. Tom? Who's sick and tired of Kenny Olivier? Everyone knows it's corny. Who took a shoot, fought off of the scaffolding? Who bled a gusher in a white suit? Who said Ronnie Garvin went up like the Challenger? Everyone knows it's corny. It's Jim Cornette's drive-through. He'll answer questions from you, and he won the pony too. Thank you, fuck you, bye. Thank you, fuck you, bye. Thank you, fuck you, bye. Thank you, fuck you, bye.
Hello again, friends. And you are our friends, and welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive-Thru right here on another beautiful fall day, close to Thanksgiving. We are well. We hope you are as well. I am your host, the great Brian Last. Of course, the star of the show will be introduced in a moment, and I think we're going to have more fun on the show here today than they had in that Barclays Center. Oof, what a dog of a show. But we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more with the star of the drive-thru, the man who has been the star of so many drive-thrus, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Marcia. Little Peter Brady-ish there at the beginning. Hello again, friends.
If only they heard the outtake.
You did it better on the one that the folks are going to hear. How are you? Can you hear me? How are you doing? How do I sound?
You sound okay. Can you hear me? What's going on over there?
Yes, I can hear you. It seems to be fine for the moment, but we have more updates on my continuing internet and cable situation here. If you're not listening to the programs in chronological order, the way the podcasting gods meant for them to be consumed orally, as in A-U-R-A-L-L-Y, orally, through your ears. If you're not listening to them in order, we've been having a running update on my various internet fiascos here at the castle, and most recently, on the last experience, I reported that I had upgraded to the 1 gig from the 500 byte service. But since they did something wrong on the telephone at customer service and didn't zap my modems the proper way for Marvin, the technician here on site, to be able to finish bringing all this internet into the house, they had sent it to the escalation team, which at first, as I mentioned, I thought was going to be a group of trained commandos storming the castle with grappling hooks, but I was told then that it was the smarter people in the company that would fix whatever the guy on the phone at customer service had fucked up so that my modems and or routers, which one is it, Brian? I can't remember what either one of them fucking do.
I'm not
is
exactly
it the modem or the router?
I think it's the router, but I don't know exactly what's happening.
Whatever the case, the escalation team was supposed to call me within 24 hours. That would have been last Friday afternoon. We recorded over the weekend, early Saturday. I mentioned I hadn't heard yet. And basically, it is now Tuesday early, and I ain't heard dick from these people. They didn't call me. We did the speed test on the internet. See, now I'm getting around about the bytes that I should have been getting all along with what I was paying for before. After Stacy plugged something in and Marvin did some things, and now I'm up around the 500 or 600 bytes. But as I mentioned, when I told them on the phone, I don't care what this fucking costs or what you have to do. I just want the fastest fucking internet possible, and I want it to work. So I upgraded to the 1 gig, but they fried the things. And so that was last week. I still haven't heard anything. And I have approximately 500 or 600 of the bytes out of the 900 or something that I'm supposed to have with the gig. But I had another issue. Because, as we know, and we'll talk about later on, unfortunately, the Survivor Series was this weekend. Well, naturally, I don't want to patronize the cock because, as I mentioned many times, they have no on-screen fast forward, right? You got to just guess.
Well,
Go ahead.
I will say this time, for me, I had the ability to pause and go backwards in either 10-second increments or just, swipe back as far as I wanted. And once you went backwards, I had the ability to go forward or go to live TV.
Well, that's because you were trying to watch the thing as it happened.
Yes.
Yeah, well, fuck that too. Because then you can't skip through anything. And I've had fucking people goddamn be born, graduate college, and get a job by the time some of these entrances are over with, right? So anyway, I prefer to be able to be flexible there. But I was going to order the pay-per-view like I always do. Like I always have. And since Marvin was kind enough to fix the cable box that had been fried earlier in the week, I decided I'd go ahead and purchase it on that one. And I went and I looked it up and I hit the thing and it said, not authorized. You must call so-and-so and such and such. All right, maybe they hadn't got that one done right just yet. I'll go down to the TV room. The big screen TV, my old faithful cable box, everything's always worked on it. I hit that. You can't buy this. You must call something, such. What the fuck? Now I'm trying to give these people more money, and I can't. So I wasn't going to call about the bytes and the gigs because I know that that's a fool's errand because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. More on this in a minute. But I figure I've been ordering pay-per-views by the phone from the cable company since 1986, right? That should be easy. I'll just call this number and explain to them they got to zap my cable box so I can order pay-per-views like I've been doing in this self-same location for the past nearly 20 years. So I call that number. And the guy's more than happy to help me. And I explained to him, I said, I'm trying to order pay-per-view, and it says I'm not authorized, and I know you've gone through a new billing system recently. Maybe that has something to do with why the boxes have been screwed up, because one of the Spectrum employees that knows that they're a piece of shit company had emailed me and told me that. Actually, we've heard about several. I've heard from several Spectrum employees saying, yeah, they fucked a lot of shit up. So I said, can you just zap my cable boxes so I can be on my way? Oh, yes, I can. I see that how much was the pay-per-view that you were wanting to order? I said, $49, $50. I don't know. Why is that pertinent? Well, your pay-per-view limit is set to 0. I said, what is a pay-per-view limit?
Yeah, what's that?
He said, well, that's if you're set to 0, you have to call first to get authorization before you can order a pay-per-view. I said, apparently that's one of these new things, huh? Because I sound like I've been ordering pay-per-views longer than this guy's been living. He said, yeah. He said, so how much? Why don't we just set you to $75? I said, well, if you're going to set me to something, because I don't know what I'm going to do or order, set me to $200 or $300 so I don't have to call you back. Oh, well, I can't do that. I can only set you to $75. You have to talk to our billing department if you want to go. I said, wait a minute. Wait a goddamn minute. I said, I had the fucking guy over here last week about the shitty internet. I said, now you're telling me after I've had this service for 20 years and I've never been late on paying my bill and I've been ordering pay-per-views that whole time, that suddenly I got to talk now to somebody else besides you just to get them to allow me to give you fucking money? How about this? You set it for the $75 that you can do right now because it's goddamn Saturday afternoon and I'm busy and I got to watch something tomorrow. And then this week I'm going to call and have all this shit jerked out because none of it works and I'm sick and fed up of calling you people. How's that? Yes, sir. So go ahead and set it. It's done. Thank you. Click. Go down, try to order the pay-per-view. It doesn't work.
Well, wait, to be fair, how long after the phone call did you go down and try it?
He says done now. It doesn't. It was 15 minutes, whatever the fuck. But it doesn't make it doesn't matter, because now I say, you know what? What the fuck? So I have to go and I have to watch the thing on the cock with no on-screen fast forward with these marathon entrances. But basically, you know what I would have done? The old Jim Cornette. I would have done what I told the fellow on the phone. I would have called this week. I said, fuck all you motherfuckers. I hate you. I might have gone to the local office with a stick or a bat or something and broke some glass out. I would have. And by the way, they wanted me to put my phone service on there too with them so that they could bundle me better and save me $20 a fucking month or whatever. I said, you're not touching my phone. So the old Jim Cornette would have done that. I'd had everything yanked out. We would have been doing this podcast on the fucking phone, and I'd be off the internet. But instead, Brian, I'm older, I'm wiser, I'm more calm now than I used to be. So I know that these people don't know how this fucking shit's supposed to work, and I know that I'm not ever going to get what I'm paying for out of these people. With the gig service, it's not going to happen. So that's an extra $75, $100 a month, whatever the fuck it is. I don't care, because I'd have to call them to get them to take that off my bill, and then I'd have to go through all this other shit. So instead, I'm going to get my money one way or another out of these people. Because I'm figuring, since I've just mentioned this a couple of weeks, a couple of the shows, and already I've heard from some of the Spectrum employees that, yeah, they are a piece of shit company, and yeah, they've done this billing thing, and they've fried a lot of stuff, and they're not giving you what and all this other shit. Brian, we are listened to by, 500,000 people a week, give or take.
Oh, a bit more than that.
Maybe I'm talking about each program. It depends on the fucking, I'm not talking about in total with everything that's out there that everybody just listens to. I'm talking about the new stuff each time going forward. So I just want to just let everybody know that I'm going to be calm about this. I'm not going to cause a stir. I'm not going to get violent. I'm just every week now, every show, I'm going to remind the countless people around the world that if you have internet or phone or cable TV with Spectrum, you are a victim. You are being lied to, cheated, and stolen from. That's what I'm going to, and maybe somebody with some kind of pull in this company that knows how their shit works can contact me and offer to fix this, but I don't know that I want that, because I would rather tell people on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, twice weekly, whatever that fucking phrase is, that they're a bunch of fucking crooks. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a paid-for spot. I'm getting my money's worth out of this. Ladies and gentlemen, this program is brought to you despite the best efforts of Spectrum. Get Spectrum for your cable TV or internet or anything else, and you're fucked. They'll lie to you, cheat you out of the service you bought, and steal your money for it anyway. Their customer service representatives are complete nitwits and imbeciles, and whatever problem you call about, they'll make it worse. Nobody that works for the company knows how a single goddamn product or service that they offer works, and most of it doesn't work right to begin with. Instead of their cable TV, you'd be better off showing slides on the side of a shed, and their internet service could be outperformed by elderly carrier pigeons with arthritic wings. If you use Spectrum for anything, you're an idiot. And dealing with these assholes will make you have a stroke. And if they control your phone service, it'll be fatal because you won't be able to call an ambulance. This program is brought to you again, despite Spectrum.
Is there a promo code?
A promo code fuck you.
All right.
But it's your program, Brian.
That's what I have heard. And we have a lot to talk about here on the drive-thru, of course.
Oh, and I should mention.
Yes.
That if you're a Cornette's Collectibles customer, I, unlike Spectrum, do care about my customers. And we have been busily sorting the rest of the orders. There's less than 600 to go from the big blitz back in October. And I'm working all Thanksgiving weekend and all next week. The plan is to have all the domestics, the rest of the domestics, out in the mail by Monday, December 6th, and the internationals by the end of that week. And Australia and New Zealand, we got an update. Not only is there, I've got two updates. One person said that their post, what do they call it over there? Goddamn, in New Zealand, whatever the local mail service is called, the post or whatever, their shit's all fucked up domestically over there to begin with. But another person shared with me that the United States is not even sending stuff first-class mail right now to Australia or New Zealand because not only, I guess, are they swamped over there, but also we do not either have the flights or the space on the flights to get the stuff over there. So if you try to send something right now first class to Australia or New Zealand from Bree's testimony just a few days ago at the post office, they'll send it back to me. So I'm holding on to everything, and we're going to see when this lifts, and we will be contacting anyone affected if it doesn't by the time everything else goes out. But that's my update. And now it's your show.
Well, this is indeed my show. And as I was saying before, a lot of big topics today. Of course, the review of the Survivor Series, a big topic every year. But I feel like this is one of those weeks where right before we're about to record, a whole bunch of crazy shit happened.
I know. I got up this morning and poor Seth Rollins.
Yes. Well, speaking of...
I was just remarking to you.
I thought that was your transition. But of course, speaking of things that have happened, you want to talk about waking up this morning. I woke up really early this morning and I couldn't go back to sleep. So I said, all right, I'll wake up an hour earlier and get some work done. I come in the office. I put on CBS Channel 2 News. And the lead story is WWE wrestler Seth Rollins attacked in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. And they put up a still image of him. And he looks like the nicest guy. He's just smiling. He doesn't look like a wrestler, like a nice bearded man. He's attacked. They don't show you any footage of it. It makes it sound like he's dead. Attacked at the Barclays Center last night. The next story. There was a shooting in Brownsville last night. They just go right ahead with the next thing. But it's been a big story.
Least, did they follow the shooting with a stabbing? No, go ahead.
But it's a big story right now, not just in wrestling. Like I said, it was the lead story on CBS Channel 2 News here in New York. What are your thoughts? What have you seen? And everyone's talking about it. What do you think about Seth Rollins being attacked by a fan in Brooklyn?
Well, first of all, and I've got to defend him about one thing, because was it Chavo Sr. or Chavo Jr.?
Chavo Sr. passed away a few years ago. It was Chavo Jr.
Oh, God. Okay. Then I'm sorry. I blank. But all I saw was somebody screenshotted a small clip of, I guess maybe there's personal heat between them then, since Chavo didn't even work there anymore or whatever, but a small clip of the incident with Chavo's tweet that said something effective. I remember when the wrestlers were tougher than the fans. And in this case, this was not Seth Rollins' fault.
No, not at all.
He never saw it coming, and we'll break down the. I wish we had one of those telestrators and a screen where we could break down the attack later on.
You are kind of like the John Madden of fan attacks, I would think, right?
Well, I can tell you what happened here, and like I said, we'll go into more detail later on. But the overall thing is, I don't care if it had been Conor McGregor, Hoist Gracie, fucking Haku, whatever. In this case, it would have happened probably about the same way, except if it was Haku, he would have spread the referees out that, had contained the guy and fucking bit his jugular vein or whatever. But no, he got blindsided. And the fault of this is complacency. Complacency, because nobody today and we've talked about this a number of times when the guy jumped up on the apron on the AEW show, and just we've talked about it in general terms. nobody expects this because it never happens anymore. So therefore, everybody stops looking for it. They start looking for the things that they've had problems with recently. Drunk fans or people trying to snatch something, or maybe somebody trying to get on camera in some, in some unsavory way, or a sign that doesn't need to be up, or whatever the case. Nobody's looking for heat with an actual fan actually attacking somebody, because it never happens anymore. And so that's complacency. And I mean, this guy, I don't know what his issue was. I guess he's the one guy in the Western Hemisphere that hadn't yet got the memo. That especially who would have thought somebody on a WWE program would get any heat? I could see, like, it was one of the MLW tapings in Chicago that I was at. It got a little dodgy with Jacob Fatu and Joseph Samael and the Contra crew when they debuted, and there was 2,000 people in the building. 15 of them were Hispanic, and they're still into things, and they got some steam there. But for the most part, who would have thought, especially on a WWE program, something like this would happen? I think the difference in this guy, we'll probably find out, is that in the old days, it was normal guys, probably drinking, possibly drunk, who got carried away and lost in the moment. And, probably, I've told a story that the nephew of this woman had sat on the front row in the Louisville Gardens for years, and she was smart. She would bring Fargo a bottle every week. She kind of knew what was going on, but her grown adult nephew in his 20s or early 30s lost himself one night and hopped in the ring, got his head kicked in. And he'd had a few beers, but it was normal people, got caught up in what was going on, got caught up in the fact that everybody else was screaming for somebody to do something.
And alcohol.
And there you go. In this case, we're probably going to find out that there's a mental component to this somehow with this fucking clown. I don't think I'm sure there's plenty of drunk guys at wrestling matches over the last few years that's not doing this. So something else. And like I said, everybody now has figured this out. So it's got to be something else going on with this guy. But that's how it was in the old days. And that's why people were looking for it, because you knew that at any point it could happen, because it could be anybody. It had happened with regularity. And everybody from the cops to the talent themselves, to the referees, to anybody connected with the program was watching for it. And that was first thing they were aware of. And now these guys go to and from the ring, and rightfully so. That's the last thing they should have to think of, is somebody hopping on them. But especially when you're a heel in any environment, you should be cognizant of what's going on around you. And I know there was a lot going on there, but did you see how the guy did it? How he got that unobstructed, like 50-foot fucking running start?
Well, that's the thing. He had a giant space. I mean, he almost came out of nowhere. The first time you see it, it's just out of the darkness when you see that first footage, that fan footage of it. And he just has an open run, and he tackles him. And I just want to say, I think any criticism of the initial reaction by Seth Rollins is completely unfounded, and Chavo's being a little unfair there, because what's he supposed to do? Gets tackled out of nowhere by someone who just ran for 50 yards, or not 50 yards, 50 feet, excuse me.
It could have been longer, because he come around the curve there. Yeah. We didn't see where he started.
And he put him in a front face lock. I mean, what else are you going to do? That's what anyone would do if all of a sudden you got attacked from behind. So what did you see?
Well, here's the thing. And for the people who didn't see it, we'll try to describe the layout, in that they're no longer using a stage and a ramp down. They're on the arena floor level. They've got the big video wall, which looks kind of slick, and it's got the opening that you can't see really, because they've got another video wall behind it. So it looks like the wrestlers are entering through the video wall, right? And there's a big open floor area in front of the video wall, and then it V's down into the entranceway down through the middle of the people, and there's a barricade on either side of that so that the fans can't get to the wrestlers or whatever, right? And the arena, the back of the arena there, where that barricade V'd out to, to encompass the video wall area, that's also where anybody that's been to a live TV taping of a wrestling show in a big arena like that knows that they put a lot of the equipment over on the sides there. And sometimes that's where you have the crash pads or the shit with sheets on it that they can get thrown off something or whatever. But there's equipment like a sound station, sound booth, and other things going on, lighting controls, whatever. And it's dark because in the corners back there, they don't want people to see a lot of that shit. So the point is, this guy didn't try to come right up to the aisleway that Seth was walking down and jump over that railing. What he did was he went back to one of the corners where it's kind of the lights are darkened. They don't want you to see the corner back there anyway on television. But there's still all the 15,000 people that was Raw. So there was still a bunch of people in this building. And he just hopped over the barricade back there in the dark at the corner where it met the bleacher seats, general admission, where nobody was paying any attention. So he obviously, because they just done an angle where Seth kicked shit out of the babyface, got some heat or whatever. So instead of coming, it used to be a fan hitting the ring used to be a flash reaction. What's the word I'm searching for? Just a sudden impulse, right?
Instinct.
Where not necessarily instinct, but impulse to do something where they would take the shortest available route to you, right? Because that's what you'd got them and they come. That's why coming over the rail became a phrase. We got them over the rail because they'd come right over. This guy saw what had happened and from wherever he was in the building managed to get to that corner so he could hop into the space with the thought of tackling the fucking guy there in the open area where he had plenty of room. And that's exactly what he did. So when Seth is coming down, he had a cameraman next to him. They're shooting, literally the cameraman's backing up. So the fan, Mark, is coming from behind the cameraman because the cameraman's backing up, shooting Seth walking back. Seth knows the camera's shooting him, but he's going to look back and do the deal where he gets his glory while the babyface is selling and everything and raises his arms for the people. He's not expecting anybody in that back area to be there because it's all talent, all for the program. So he doesn't even say it. Plus the guy, to add to that, the video wall was red and the guy was wearing a red shirt. So all of a sudden, boom, he gets tackled out of his fucking boots from someone that he knows there's no continuation of this angle going on. Nobody's supposed to jump him, so he had to. But the furthest thing from his mind, because of complacency and everybody else's mind, was that it would be a fan. So when he first went down, you can see he's like, what the fuck? Is it one of the boys? Then he sees who it is. He front face locks the guy. And then here's where the shit gets sticky because I don't care if you're Conor McGregor or Hoist Gracie. Now you got a dog pile because now the referees start coming. And did you see when the first referee got there, I think he told Seth, and he'd probably been told in the IFB to let him go because without going into a goddamn long dissertation, they would rather their referees be liable in civil litigation than their mainstream $1 million talent, right? They don't want the fucking guys retaliating. This has been said to a variety of talent going back a number of years. Don't retaliate. The security will be there. The referees want to just protect yourself, but let's just say don't take after the guy tackles Brett at the Hall of Fame. Don't take that fucking cheap shot when he's already in custody and just bash his fucking face in like he deserves. That kind of thing, right? So now you got two referees on top of this guy. Seth let go of the front face lock, but the guys grabbed a hold of Seth's hair. And if you watch the clip that one of the fans recorded with their phone, by this point, the guy's Seth is on his back on the ground. The guy's got a hold of his hair, but the second referee comes in and the second referee is on top of fucking Rollins where he can't get out from under all this shit. And now here comes a guy with a fucking headset on, one of the crew members. And I'm still waiting for a cop in a uniform with a stick or some authoritarian fucking structure, right? Never came. All the referees go up when you're in a scramble on the ground like that, and there's people all over you, and you not only can't keep track of who's piled on, but where they are, you're fucked. You just got to get out from under it as quick as possible. And that's the fucking situation that Rollins was in, and it was over that quick, and then all the referees are on him. Now he jumps up, and they've got him covered up. The only thing you can see of this guy is his ass. So he's cutting a promo on the guy, but they've already probably told him, don't hit him. And there's nothing to hit because everybody's on top of this fucking guy.
I would have hit him. I would have fucking hit him.
Well, you can't.
Why can't you? He's going to sue me? Go ahead. Let's go to court.
You're not understanding the words coming out of my mouth. You can't hit him because everybody's on top of him. You can't hit him.
Once he was free, when Seth Rollins got behind the security guards and then started yelling at the guy, I'm sorry, that's when you kick him in the fucking face.
Well,
they're holding him. They're like your friends. It's like all of a sudden you have friends. They're holding the guy that just attacked you.
Yes.
You go over there, elbow him in the fucking face.
In the old days, that used to work. But remember I just blasted the numbnuts on the AEW program for going over the rail and kicking the guy in the face. You don't want to, he's on television. People are shooting this. You don't want to see that.
He'd be a bigger star than ever before. It would make the lawsuit worth it because he'd be a bigger star than ever before. And the story wouldn't be poor WWE wrestler attacked by psychotic fan. It would be a wrestler was attacked and kicked the living shit. Don't do this, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it would be. But again, that's after the fact thinking, not in the moment. But anyway,
that's the thing, that it's scary when you get taken down. And that's only happened to me a couple of times. Leaving my feet with one of the fans on you or in the people or whatever. But that's the thing, is that once that happens and everybody's in that dog pile, you can't get shit and you don't know what to get until you get out of it and take a look at it. And then I've told the story, but I'll tell it again briefly just because it fucking reflects the same flavor.
Now streaming on Peacock.
Deep in the woods stands a lone door. What's behind the door? Nightmares. Your worst nightmares.
Time to fight your demons.
Who are you? I'm a weapon.
This girl is a cold soul killer.
I'm gonna end this thing.
Are you like the Terminator?
The Girl in the Woods. A brand new series streaming now only on Peacock.
The guy in Charlotte that got me, we were wrestling Dusty and Magnum in the Charlotte Coliseum. I knew that Charlotte was a hot building, and I always kept an eye out whenever I was involved in something. But also, we had the iron railing barricade thing that was about 4 feet high that had a little break that you stepped over. Everybody's seen an old NWA Crockett tape, has seen this same railing. But the cops, the uniformed police, two of them would sit behind me, and then there was another one in each corner of the ring. But two of them were in folding chairs on either side of that little 2 foot wide opening in the railing. So there's a couple feet in between them. And actually, the railing wasn't open all the way down to the floor. You had to step over a bottom rail that kept it squared up, so it was a step over thing. And they were behind me, and while I was in the corner, I give Dusty a poke with the racket while we're getting the heat on him. And immediately I look to my right and I see the cops are sitting there, and I look to my left to see the other way down the aisle just to make sure I don't see anybody coming. And suddenly from the back, my brains explode. Boom, because a fucking guy had run down the aisle. And imagine if you're sitting a couple feet beside a guy in a folding chair, and all of a sudden somebody comes in between you and over your shoulder at the same time. They said they just saw his ass coming over and he landed, boom, because he jumped everything. and punched me right behind the right ear before I knew anybody was there. Boom. So now I'm like, whoa. And immediately the cops are on him and they grab him. When they grab him, he grabs me in a headlock. Now I've been fucking stunned and I'm in a headlock and I know it's a fucking fan. And I see the cop uniforms, but there the tussle starts. And here comes the cops from the other corners of the ring. And I'm trying to hit the guy, but since he's got me in a headlock, I've still got the racket in one hand, but I can't swing. The cops are on him. You can't, I'm just going along with it. And they're pulling him off his feet, which is taking me with it. And I've told this story. That's when Dusty saw that I was down or going down and came through the ropes and kayfabing and trying to help me at the same time. He dives off the apron like he's going to get me, but he cross bodies the guy that's got me, that's being pulled by the cops. And so me, 4 cops, Dusty, and the Mark all went down. And then once the guy lets go of my head, I have to get out from under all of these fucking people on a concrete floor. And fucking, I get up and they're on top of him. And Dusty had gotten up and I got away from Dusty and he rolls back in because he doesn't want to disrupt the heat so Bobby can stop him again. But in the meantime, they're struggling with this guy and I'm trying to find a place to hit. And one cop has him in a face lock, like Seth had his guy. And another one's on top of him trying to get a hammer lock on him. Another one's got his leg. The only thing that I see that's unobstructed is this guy's ass, just like the fucking guy. Motherfucker, I'm going to try to break his tailbone with a football kick, right? I go for the kick, and as soon as I do, they move, and I end up kicking one of the cops in the fucking leg. Ow! I said, oh, shit, I'm sorry. Let us have him. So there was nothing for me to hit, right? And they drug him off, and they arrested him, and he's the one that he didn't pull it, but they took a 3 or 4 inch pocket knife off of him. So they arrest him and get him out of there. And then I've told this story and you can look it up on YouTube. I'm not going to divert the subject, but that's when a few weeks later, they hit me with the rib arrest warrant for assault and battery on a police officer for kicking the cop in the fucking leg while he was on top of the Mark. But it was a rib, and that's when I've cussed out poor baby doll because she knew it was a rib and I didn't. And she was laughing.
What did you say to her?
I say, you think it's funny, you fat fucking pig? I swear to fucking God. Hey, I'm sorry. There was 4 cops there telling me they were going to put me in a car and take me to the station for assault and battery on a police officer from the incident in Charlotte, and she's laughing.
How did she react when you said that?
She just stopped laughing. She completely stopped laughing. In between saying, get somebody named Crockett in here, I said, and I apologized some years later, but it did add the edge to our program.
Did she really yell, get someone named Crockett in here?
No, I was yelling.
Oh, you were yelling.
In between me yelling, get somebody named Crockett in here, I looked over and she's laughing. I said, you think it's funny, you fat fucking pig? In a fucking jail? So... But anyway, so that's in that kind of a schmoz. That's what happens, and also it's scary. Like I said, when you get taken down, and that's the first thing any of the boys that started talking to me about how to protect myself when we went to Louisiana. When I first got into business, Frank Morrell would tell me, and Bobby and Dennis especially, don't let them get you off your feet because you're fucked. Because then the cops are because then you're stationary, you're not moving. The cops, if they're fighting people that bad, that if you're off your feet, the cops are fighting other people and you're fucking toast. And that's one of the only times I ever got took down. But sometimes you would get in a situation like that time in Huntington when I got the 4 assault complaints from leaving the ring to the dressing room, 4 different people. When the crowd surges, and I don't want, it's somewhat similar to like what they had in Houston at that concert, except this is 20,000 people at the Houston concert on a flat ground all surging toward a stage, not with violent intent, they've just lost control, and that's what happened. But in a smaller situation, in a lot of people may have seen, I think it's on YouTube, the Road Warriors in Hammond, Indiana, when they got in that beef at an AWA match. I think it was 1985, and they got in a fight out in that Hammond Civic Center. Was tough. You see the crowd moving in a wave kind of at a couple of times.
Yeah.
Okay. When you're going down the aisleway and the ringside seats were next to you back in the old days, before they got all this security and hardly ever use it, back when we were constantly threatened and had little to any security. When you were in the aisleway, you had to watch the sides of you because the people were right there. But the ringside seats benefited you in that it blocked people from just running up in an open space willy-nilly and coming at you from any direction. You see what I'm saying?
Of course.
So the people on the ends of the seats could still get you and whatever. But once you got past ringside, if you were in an open area of a building and there was a big crowd and people were hot, you've got cops around you. But as they all charge from a different direction, and they're trying to push and shove and give you the finger or spit on you or throw or do whatever, you start moving sometimes with the entire group of people that you're in the middle of. And it's fucking scary because I've gone 8 or 10 feet in some of these things without taking a step. And you just hope that you continue going in the direction that you're supposed to be going in and try to hug the cops, because the crowd will move, or it doesn't anymore, but it would move you when they were surging from all directions. That's why we didn't like open floor areas. Even sometimes when it wasn't a big crowd, when it was a smaller crowd, people got more room to get away. They can do shit in the dark and get away. The Biloxi, Mississippi Gulf Coast Coliseum was horrible for that because it was a huge building they only used half of, and it was fucking dark. And that's where that big farm kid took Bobby down and wiped out a row or two of ringside seats with him. But anyway, that's what happens in that case. But now that we've talked about this also, and I've sympathized with Seth's predicament because he couldn't have done anything else about it, it wasn't that violent an altercation, to be quite honest. This, as relates to the overall history of fan interactions and violence to wrestlers or whatever, this, except for the fact that he would have never been taken down in the territory days because everybody would have been looking. He would have had cops with him going down the aisleway. They would have seen something.
There was no open space like that.
If there was an open space, like I just said, in the back of an arena, you still had cops with you. And you were looking for this because you figured it would probably happen more often than not. Instead of not dreaming it was going to happen, the cops would have seen it. He would have been looking. So he wouldn't have got taken down. The guy could have charged and it would have been a little bit different. But besides him getting taken down, this was not that violent at all in terms of fan interaction. It was one lone guy. Nobody got hurt. And here's another thing. Nobody got hurt. Fucking security is more polite than it used to be, in my experience. That's another thing I was going to mention. The police. There were none. The referee crew got the guy. They were there on him for 30 seconds or more. I saw a guy with a headset, one guy in a suit. And when they had footage of the guy being walked out of the arena, it was one guy in a suit that was obviously of the private security company or whoever was contracted for this gig. The guy wasn't in handcuffs. The guy in the suit had a hold of his T-shirt and was walking him up the stairs to go out into the breezeway somewhere in the building. And that's how they took him out.
Well, that's nice of them.
And let me just explain that if that guy had just said, you know what? I got away with something already. I'm going to try for 2, and turned around. He's not handcuffed, and the fucking guy walking him out of the building is on the fucking bleacher stairs under him. He could have turned around and fucking clocked him, and the guy wouldn't have stopped falling for 100 feet, and there the guy's gone. And why would you walk him out through the people? He's already established he's physically dangerous. I have never seen a fan attack any wrestler and not go straight back like where the boys go and back to the back to be detained until the cop cars pull up to the back door. And we've talked about they used to have the room in New Orleans at the downtown municipal auditorium. When the cops would bring somebody that had hopped in the ring or punched a heel or whatever, they'd bring him in the back and they'd put him in a room that was empty and about 10 feet square in this old municipal auditorium in New Orleans. And it was 3 feet from the back door, the stage door. And that fan would go in there and the cops would say, you wait right here, and they'd close the door. And when the heel that had been offended came back, they'd say, would you like to speak to him? And the said heel had the option to accept or decline. And if he accepted, then the cops opened the door. The heel went in to speak to the fan that had offended him while the cops waited outside. And when the heel came out, or if he was spending too much time in there, the cops might go. And then the heel would leave, and then the cops would go and get the guy and throw him out the back door in the fucking alley in the middle of one of the worst neighborhoods in New Orleans.
Surprised Watts didn't bonus guys if they let him go in their stead.
No, he usually didn't even make New Orleans because he was, it's a long way from Oklahoma. But DiBiase's been in that room. Doc's been in that room. A bunch of people have been in that room. But again, the lack of police, uniformed police, this is where I'm going with this. Just because this wasn't particularly violent doesn't mean that sometimes some goof is going to escalate it. And that's why we always had in the territories, and I won't say always, because I've talked about the shitty podunk towns where somebody dropped the ball at a spot show or the fire department was going to be security or whatever, but in arenas in the territories, the regular arenas that you ran on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis, whatever, you had police in uniform. They didn't have to be on duty. Usually they probably weren't. They were off-duty police, but genuine police that had the right to wear the uniform. And they would be contracted by the building, by the arena, and paid by the promoter to be security. And they have the power of arrest, and they have the power to deal with violent situations. Like I said, now the security deals with drunk fans that are fighting over who seats who, or somebody's got a lewd sign, or somebody shoving somebody around over the memorabilia or whatever, or somebody wants to steal something. These police came to the matches with a full intent of stopping fans from getting in the ring and or attacking the wrestlers to and from. That was their and guarding the box office. Those were the primary functions that the police had. Because also, if you were running a big building, you had ushers and you had ticket takers. They could show people where their seats were and shit, but you had somebody on the property, multiple people on the property, uniformed with a stick and a gun and handcuffs with the power of detainment and arrest. And they could also provide themselves as witnesses in court that were more well thought of than fucking Keister down the street, 3 beers in. I saw it. Well, this uniformed police officer over here saw it also, and he's used to testifying in court. So we'll put our livelihood in his hands. And that's what they need. I never saw a uniformed police. And somebody's going to say, oh, well, they should get Atlas security. And I've met those guys. They're very good. But unless I'm mistaken, they don't have the power to arrest or carry weapons. And when you have a private security company of any quality, high or low, involved in a serious situation, it sometimes goes worse for you in court and civil litigation, whatever, than if you have actual law enforcement on the premises. But it's been so long since people have needed it that they've just gotten out of the habit. It's complacency and complacency is going to turn into culpability. Because I know we're never going to, have the issues that we had back in the day, but that still doesn't mean that somebody like this fucking goof, I think you'll find out he's mental in some case or feels like he was personally. It made the paper in Baton Rouge one time. I did the introduction of the Midnight Express. And when I got on the microphone, I told the people in the Centroplex, I said, "You're the sorriest looking bunch of people I've ever seen in my life." And when the guy tried to attack me on the way back and jumped up on the rail and swung at me and missed, and I whacked him, ended up drawing back and whacking one of the cops. Dundee got on the guy and pulverized him, but nobody knew who Dundee was then because he was just booking. But in the newspaper, the guy's quote was, "I personally insulted him by calling him sorry on the microphone. That's why he attacked me." You're going to get these people.
And nowadays, you get a lot of people, quite frankly, just looking for attention, whether they're mentally ill or not. They're looking for clout. They're looking to go on Twitter and brag about it.
But that's, but as far as, I saw everybody talking about fan violence. I'm sorry to piss on everybody's parade with that, but no, this was not violent. The worst I ever saw in person, we've seen the Ox Baker Cleveland riot. And, I've seen a number of issues that I've been in and more with, I saw the guy hopping in the ring on Flair and Dusty that night in St. Louis, and the cops were standing in the back talking to each other. And I was like, "Hey, think y'all need to go up there and get that fucking guy in the ring?" "Oh, shit." And off they go. But the worst I ever saw was the time in Tulsa when the Internal Affairs Department got involved. And the thing is, these things can start real easy and get bad and out of control real quick. The Midnight Express Wrestling the Fantastics, that was a period of time where they had banned my tennis racket in Mid-South. So the deal was, I think it was the finish, we're going to get disqualified. I was going to throw the belt off of my pants into Bobby and Dennis, and they were going to double clothesline Bobby Fulton with it, but the referee was going to catch him and DQ whatever we get out of there.
Did you have Hercules?
Did not have Hercules. He wasn't there at this point. Bye, Cracky. And see, here's the thing. He didn't go out on all of the matches with me anyway. If he was wrestling that night, I'd go out with him, but he wouldn't go out just on TV.
Okay.
Right?
And big shows like the Superdome or something.
We corrected that with Bubba. Bubba went everywhere with me. But anyway, I throw the belt in, and as soon as Bobby and Dennis shoot Bobby Fulton off for the double clothesline, I'm turning around to keep an eye, and I see the guy come over the rail at the far end. Oh, I've got time to roll in under the bottom rope because I want to get some ground on the guy, make them come into the ring. That's where your first line of defense. As I roll in under the bottom rope, he's still coming. He jumps up on the apron and sticks his head, because the fans never know how to get in the ring, and that's where you can make your move. He sticks his head in through the second and top rope, like he's going to come in that way. And meanwhile, Dennis has looked around and saw, why is Corny rolling in the ring? He's not supposed to. Oh, there's somebody chasing him. He's coming behind me. I went to kick the guy, and he went to kick the guy, and we kicked him on opposite sides of his face at the same time. Boom. And down he went to the Eddie. And now he's busted open. And the cops grab him, and now the match is over, and we dive out. And I think to add to all of our other issues, I think that's where, was I still wearing the mask where I'd gotten my head shaved, but somebody got me in the face with a cup of beer, and I'm blind, so I'm grabbing a hold of Bobby. Now, I don't have the racket. Dennis still has my belt. He's got it wrapped around his fist. The people see that one of their own has been bloodied by the heels because they see him bleeding. So ringside comes up, and that gets everybody to start coming up because it starts spreading. And like we've proved in Altoona, once they see the heel has busted open one of the fans and he's bleeding, things escalate quickly. So the cops surround us, and they're trying to get us down the aisle, and that's where the people are pushing and shoving and trying to fight and trying to swing, and you're just swaying with it, and we're still going in the right direction, thank God. But this is also, again, in Tulsa, same thing that had happened a few times before. When you start losing cops, when they had their sticks out because people are becoming that violent and they're hitting people. But when you take a fan down, when one of the cops takes a fan down, the cop has to stay with that guy. So you start losing cops. And finally, they got us close enough. We were at the assembly center, not the fairgrounds. So we went underneath that breezeway entrance, or what do they call it? Vomitorium. Here's a word Bruce Pritchard used to love. The vomitorium, where it went out to where the locker room was in the back, and it's underneath the bleacher seats. The cops shove us through there, and they're still defending that area, that the people are trying to come back through and get to us. So the cops have their sticks out and are defending that area that the public is not supposed to come in. And we're beat up and roughed up, and my ties around my neck. And I look and see, and the guy that started the whole thing, the cops have brought him back there and leaned him up against the wall. He's sitting there and he's bleeding, and I don't know what they did to him, but he's not handcuffed, but he ain't going anywhere. And they told the old man, who was like 97 years old, looked like Burt Mustin. Look that one up, kids. It's hilarious. He said the old back door guard is sitting there watching this guy. I said, this is the motherfucker that started this whole thing that almost got all of us killed. So I run up and start putting the boots to him. And Bobby comes over and throws a kick too, and the old guard gets up, and it was like a referee distraction spot. I remember this so clearly to this day. The guard backs me and Bobby up. Like, now come on, guys, leave him alone. He's had enough. Dennis finally gets through and comes in behind us with the belt still wrapped around his fucking fist and grabs that guy by the top of his head with his left hand and just punched him right in the fucking face. So anyway, as we surveyed the scene, they had four, I know there were either 4 or 5 arrests total, but they had 3 or 4 more of the fans that had attacked the police trying to attack us, stacked up by the back door in handcuffs. They were bleeding, and there was a smear of blood down the concrete wall by the back door of the Assembly Center in Tulsa, starting about 5 feet up and going all the way down to where this guy was slumped over in the fucking on the concrete. And you heard the sirens, and they carted all these motherfuckers off to jail, and, et cetera. And 2 weeks later, we come back, and there is the internal affairs investigator. They got in so much heat. This was 1984. I don't know if it was in the papers or not, if anybody wants to do research. But the Tulsa Police Department got so much heat for beating the bejesus out of all those people. Then one of them was the son of a highway patrolman that had got shit kicked out of him for trying to attack us. And they filed a complaint, and the internal affairs came down to interview everybody involved. And we said, hey, they were trying to protect our lives and defend us from being fucking lynched. So whatever they did to these people, in our opinion, was justified. And then the city police department got so much bullshit about it that they quit doing security at matches, and it was the sheriff's department, I think, after that. So it was just a big fucking, but that was some fucking violence, folks. That was good. After several of those incidents in Tulsa, that's the only town I ever tanked on purpose. We would show up. I'd go in the bathroom and slip my bulletproof vest on underneath my jacket. We'd get the finish from Dundee. I would cross my fingers that I had to do nothing and we were losing. And then I told the boys, I said, during the match, if y'all need me, I'll be right over now. And I would stand by the ring post and do nothing for the entire match until, if I was called for in the finish, I would begrudgingly do that. And then the people would be trying to fucking kill us after that. So I did everything I could to disappear in those matches after a while. I couldn't wait to get out of that fucking town alive. And one more thing, culpability, not complacency. Now that you know that it is possible that something like this is going to happen, WWE, AEW, anybody with a budget, I can't believe that it's going to be a budget thing to where they can't hire legitimate police at these buildings. Or if they don't want legitimate police, then how about just more security and put them on those corners in the back where somebody might think to jump over behind the lighting booth and nobody will see you because it's in the dark, and lay in wait or whatever? How about it's inexcusable that no uniformed security was on the fucking job within 60 seconds. It's inexcusable within 15 seconds, but with 60 seconds of this clip that I saw, they're on top. Seth is down. The clown is down, as Rene Goulet would say. And no security. Referees? Crew members? Cameramen? What if the guy had a knife? So, and I just want to bring this up. I got this February 13th, 1994. Knoxville Civic Coliseum, Smoky Mountain Wrestling event. It was not a matter of, do you want police there at your show with these buildings? It was a matter of, how many police would you like? Well, we'll like as few as we can get away with because we got to pay them, but we also wanted enough to do what they needed to fucking do. And on this particular day, this show, we had 3,900 people in the building. So besides 4 ticket sellers at $24 each, and 8 doormen at $24 each, and 1 usher captain at $30 each, and 1 rear door guard at $50. His name was Bill Delaney. We had 8 uniformed city Knoxville police officers. The 2 main cops at $56, and the 6 auxiliary cops at $48, which worked out to they get $12 an hour. This was almost 30 years ago. For 3,900 people. And that was Smoky Mountain Wrestling. You mean to tell me the WWE can't afford, when they're in a building with 5 or 10,000, they can't afford a couple? It's not about the budget. It's about they just don't think it's necessary. Well, apparently it is. So I think the complacency falls on everybody. The talent for not looking out because they don't think it's going to happen. The crew, the security that does exist. Everybody else, they don't think it's going to happen anymore. Everybody's with it. But culpability for this one doesn't fall on Seth for getting taken down from behind or anybody else, except if there was going to be a lawsuit out of this, the culpability for the attack happening, I would believe, would be with the promotional company, WWE, and the hosting arena, which was the Gimmick Center. Don't you think?
Well, if only Jim Seth Rollins had a great attorney on his side right now in his time of need.
You know, I think that because the man has been attacked. The man has been physically assaulted on national television in front of thousands of people, in front of millions of people. He's been taken down. He's been embarrassed. And the culpability lies with the arena. The culpability lies with the promotion. Folks, if you have been attacked, assaulted, harmed, or damaged by a greedy, avaricious billionaire who doesn't provide proper security or something else, I know who you can call.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not provided with proper police protection when you protrude yourself from your residence, or if you've been damaged in any other way, newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. Stephen P. New is the man for you. We've said so many times here on the program that he defends the rights of the little guy. And in this case, Seth Rollins was the little guy who was put in a disadvantageous position by his greedy billionaire employer and by one of these nameless, faceless corporations that owns these major sporting arenas that did not provide him with proper security. Well, you could do the same thing. You can sue for the way that you've been damaged, harmed, or infringed upon. All you have to do is have the right man on your side, and Stephen P. New is that man. Whether it's the defective earplugs given to the servicemen, whether it's the cancer-causing agents in all kinds of our daily consumer goods, whether it's the vicious, evil corporations that do not want to pay their fair due, he brings them all to heel, and he will heal you too. So be healed with Stephen P. New, 888-692-8084, newlawoffice.com.
That's right, a great man, a man who helps out many members of the cult of Cornette. But Jim, you just talked about the Seth Rollins incident and many of the stories that you lived through in Mid-South Wrestling, and I think the stories of you beating up drunk Cajuns and cowboys was a lot more entertaining than whatever it is we watched that is called the Survivor Series.
5 enter detention.
I think he's breathing. I'm calling 911.
4 come out alive.
Heaven's dead.
They think one of us did it.
Based on the #1 New York Times bestseller, One of Us is Lying, a brand new series streaming only on Peacock.
Oh, boy, I wish somebody had been drunk, whether they got beat up or not. Maybe they would have had better ideas. I mentioned at the top of the program the trials and tribulations I went through trying to give Spectrum and in turn the WWE a bit of my money. Instead, I had to watch this thing on the cock, and what I did was I subtitled this Survivor Series 2021, Oh, How the Mighty Have Fallen. I don't know that this would have been necessarily bad if it was an episode of Raw or SmackDown or something
It would.
on free television. Well, it still would have. But this is one of the big major events, the pay-per-views or whatever they call them these days. I know they got a shit ton of money from The Rock's movie. What is the title of it? Red Notice? I believe that was drummed into our heads. I know they must have got a ton of money. But good golly, Miss Molly. From the cold open, where they just tied the movie in with various WWE highlights, and the feature of the gold egg, so we'd see that, but it was all tied together for no logical reason, except this movie is sponsoring us, so here's highlights of the movie with highlights of the WWE superstars. Is that what you got?
They thought they were going to have The Rock. And he probably at some point made them think that maybe he could do the date. And then he couldn't do the date. I believe he has a filming conflict. But they still did this like tribute to The Rock all throughout the show to make you think he was going to show up. It's the 25th anniversary of The Rock's debut. Here's more Rock. More Rock. Hey, look, The Rock gave Vince an egg. Let's show you The Rock's movie. You think it's building up to, and arriving now, it's The Rock. No, he was doing something else. He had something else to do. Instead of making people believe The Rock was going to be there, it reminded people that, The Rock used to be here, and now look what we got. There were 15,120 easily pleased people in Brooklyn. And well, you don't know that. And what I mean is, there are certainly people in the audience that are easily pleased and they just love WWE and they can't do anything wrong. But I think we saw, at times, an audience that was happy to just not do anything, but that does not stop the noise. For some reason, even though people are just sitting there, not making any noise, I mean, that you could see, like, mouths aren't opening, people are just staring ahead, no one's jumping up and down. You hear so much more, even though it's a live broadcast.
Somebody brought that up, that I saw it on pwinsider.com, folks, the reputable place for news, that Mike Johnson was actually in the arena and somebody commented on a chant that they heard on the internet or on the broadcast. And Mike Johnson said, apparently it didn't happen in the arena. It was just on the broadcast. They've gotten so good. It used to drive me crazy 25 years ago when I worked there. I did commentary on the shows, whatever, because they were good. They were better than WCW of the 90s with sound sweetening and mixing. But still, sometimes you could tell when they were, getting creative with things. But now they've perfected this technology, and they had the Thunderdome, and they've got the loops and the chants and things. And you would think if you didn't have eyes that some of these matches are really tearing the house down.
Did you hear any AEW chants?
I did not.
What about CM Punk? Any CM Punk chants?
Well, now you alerted me that the match that I could not bear to sit through, that was over 30 minutes long, had some of those live, but did they come through on the broadcast?
I believe it was that match, but I heard from a few people who were in the building, and I think they said it was during that match specifically, which, as a match, not good. Not very good at all. But I heard from people that there were chants for AEW and CM Punk and various things that were drowned out on the broadcast by mysterious chants from beyond. Can I just real quick before we move on with the show?
Yes.
My Survivor Series notes, you take notes. I usually don't. Yes. I did for this one. I wrote 5 things down, my 5 takeaways from Survivor Series as they were happening. Number 1, The Rock. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
Number 2, mysterious chants. We talked about that. That's why I thought we should go through this now. Number 3, the camera work, which is so counterproductive and so bad. The moving too much, the switches nonstop. The guy throws a punch. By the time he lands the punch, it's a different camera shot.
Right.
It's so bad. Roman yelling at no one during the main event. I'm sure we'll get there. And then Vince's eye job and Botox.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about it now then. I'm not concerned about the eye job and the Botox. I started to say the bow job and the eye tox.
The bow job.
Bow job and the eye tox. What's happened to his voice? Is he losing some cognitive? He seemed like when he was sitting there talking, like when Roman Reigns came in the office and they shook hands, that he was staring off camera at either, is it I'd hesitate to say a cue card, or just is he looking at himself on a monitor, or he wasn't looking at the person he was talking to, and he mumbles,
hey,
and he doesn't really
from the Rock.
Yes, it's grumbling and mumbling, and I mean, he used to be not only the forceful voice, but the get to the point voice, and now I'm struggling to understand what he's saying. So that worries me as far as it. And when he got out of the limo and he held the egg up, and
well, hold on. Someone listening may have no idea what you're talking about when you say the egg.
All right. Apparently, one of the plot points in the Red Notice movie is they've got this golden egg. And I don't know if it's the central thing in the theme of the movie or what. Maybe Alfred Hitchcock would call it the MacGuffin. It's just the reason for other things to happen. But the egg figured in the cold open because it figures in the movie. And then a limousine shows up, as you mentioned, and people are there. Well, maybe is it The Rock?
Maybe it's The Rock, the guy they've been building up the whole show.
Yeah, no, it's Vince. Vince gets out of the limo. But then there's a bunch of the talent that didn't make the card standing in the back, and as soon as they see it's Vince, they scream and yell and pop with the fakest "Yay, he's here" that you've ever heard in your life. And then he goes, wait. And he reaches in and he comes out with this egg, like he shows it like it's the goddamn, I don't know, the Ark of the Covenant. And then they don't pop right away, so he has to wave on camera, come on, and then they pop and scream again. And then he walks off like he's doing a parody of what Vince used to do. And so that's the egg. And then the egg is I guess we'll just get rid of all the egg business now, and then we'll just go through the matches. Later on, Roman Reigns comes into Vince's office. They shake hands. And that's where I mentioned Vince is mumbling and whatever, but he's talking about the egg was given to him by The Rock. And
$100 million. $100 million.
He was trying to tell and I've never heard Vince not be able to explain a story, or This is the guy that could talk anybody in the wrestling business, including me. He's done it too. He could talk anybody in the wrestling business out of doing something they wanted to do and instead make them want to do something that he wanted them to do. And now he can't convey this story. He was trying to say that The Rock came here, Roman's cousin, with $7 in his pocket, $7 Productions, and now he's a movie star. But at the same time, he gave Vince this egg. I swear to God that Vince says the egg is worth $100 million. I guess The Rock could give somebody something worth a couple of $1 million and not really probably feel it too bad. But if he gave it to him 25 years ago or whatever, he just said he just had $7 in his pocket a minute ago. So when did he get this? After he became a movie star? Well, he hadn't been in the WWF. You see where I'm going. It made no sense. And it's $100 million egg is what Vince is saying. So they couldn't even say it's worth $1 million, which would have been fine for this because nobody's going to believe it anyway. But they have to really get the fucking scoff laughing going. So then later on, Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville are sitting in Vince's office, and Vince walks in with his red cell phone in his hand and sits down and starts talking to him and looks over, and the egg is gone. And I don't know what it is about Survivor Series and eggs with Vince. And it's not like they wrote this from scratch because the movie had to have an egg in it. But the movie came out with an egg in it. Perfect time to sponsor Survivor Series. So 35 years after they laid the first egg, they could lay another one. And so now the egg is gone. And he tells Cruella DeVille and Adam Pearce, well, if you can't find the egg, then everybody has to get together, all the stars from Raw and SmackDown tomorrow. And I'm saying this with more forcefulness than he did. And we're going to get to the bottom of this, and I'm going to find my egg, my $100 million egg. Can you believe this? No, we can't, Vince.
And it turns out when he's looking for his $100 million egg, that's his nickname for Linda.
Hey! I would think she would be the $100 million anchor. But anyway, so this fucking egg is worth $100 million and is missing, and they tease on a pay-per-view, they tease the resolution on Raw the following night, which basically, let's go ahead and reveal the climax of this ridiculousness. They had everybody going through looking like idiots, trying to find this $100 million egg and looking for it. Everybody's got to play along with this thing. And then apparently Austin Theory just walked into Vince's office and said, hey, Vince, I want to take a selfie with the egg. I got it. It's right here. Oh, well, I like the cut of your jib. They
contract.
Yeah, they put him in a title match.
Title match. Big E on title match on Raw.
And that was the dispensation of it. That was it. Oh my God, line him up and shoot him at sunrise. He stole my $100 million. Oh, you wanted a selfie? Okay. You got guts. Here's a title match.
Thank you for my egg. Egg. I got to stop doing that voice. What to say to you, Austin Theory stole the egg. This is a big moment, like who ran over The Rock and, all these various mysteries in wrestling. Do you think, you talked about what you saw in Austin Theory when we started watching him in NXT.
Yeah.
Before all the silliness and whatever he's wearing now, when we just saw the raw talent as it was appearing on NXT. Obviously, Vince sees something in him.
Yeah.
Is that what this is? Is this Vince's way of saying, I see something in you, take my egg. Like, we'll do this on TV.
I guarantee you
Why would they do this? What is this?
I guarantee you it is. And now you see, a lot of people have seen the danger of Vince not seeing anything in them. Now you see the danger of Vince seeing something in you. Because, again, I said Austin Theory all around from top to bottom from what I saw in NXT for a guy, what is he, 21 years old or whatever the case?
He's young, yeah.
The best instincts, timing, basics, flawless, fucking execution of shit. He's a prodigy. He's got the size, he got the look, he got the swagger to him. So, yeah, he's a future superstar. And, I mean, say what you want about Vince, even if he's in the advanced stages of brain rot, he's seen a lot of wrestling talent. He can still see it. So now the problem is he's probably seen this in Austin Theory also, and he's decided this is the way that he might get him over. I don't. Hopefully we've seen the last of the egg. Certainly, we've seen the last of the egg.
I love my egg. Rock. It's like they just pushed him onto the set. Here, go this way. Sit down. Now read these cards. It's like Bob Hope. He's looking at the cue cards.
Oh my God. Hey, toward the end, they were contractually. Do you know what story I'm going to tell?
I think so, but
they were contractually obligated on the Tonight Show to bring Bob Hope out once or twice a year, whenever, because Bob Hope was NBC for 20 years, right? But then Johnny Carson took over as Bob's health was failing and the ratings were going down on the holiday specials and the tributes to the troops and everything. And Hope was both nearly deaf and surly on these appearances. So Carson hated it and would then finally had to have Hope on when there were guest hosts because he couldn't get a flow of a conversation with him because Hope either couldn't hear him or didn't want to answer the question and was just grumpy with everybody. And it appears that Vince is entering that stage of the fucking game.
I gotta tell you. Egg.
So Austin got the egg. But back to Survivor Series. Why didn't they either put Charlotte and Becky on last or just end the show after their match? And they got so much better feedback.
This completely killed my interest for everything else on the show that they started with this. What about you?
Yes. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know everything else. It was going to be downhill from there, but I should have predicted. This was from top to bottom, again, exactly what it should have been. They did the history package of their rivalry. Both girls come off not only looking like stars, but two of the best promos of the female category. And they were serious about it. And Becky said she's going to beat the ever-loving piss out of Charlotte. I did notice at the top of the program, why are both sides of Michael Cole's head shaved, but he still has long hair on the top of his head?
Because he's a moron?
Is he trying to make his head look less fat?
Maybe it's that.
All right. Anyway, next 2 more inches, it's a mohawk, Michael. What are you fucking doing? Anyway, so they started in right at the bell, Becky and Charlotte. Boom, the big fight. And Becky was, of course, the big-time babyface in this to the people. That might not necessarily be the way they've tried to present her, but they were pulling hair and playing rough. They were not having an MMA shoot, and they were not doing ridiculous cooperative high spots. They were working a rough and uncooperative fight and struggling to get shit. And that's exactly what they should have done, because the buildup of this thing and how people know they're off of each other and they're not friends anymore. They've had the issues, but they couldn't go out and try to go for arm bars or like a shoot, because that's not what they do. And it would have looked ridiculous, but it was 2 girls having an uncooperative fucking struggle to get shit, which is kind of what we said last week on one of the shows, is what a lot of stuff in the old days used to look like when you were in with somebody you didn't necessarily like, but you respected them professionally. You weren't going to take unprovoked cheap shots while the guy had opened himself up to you, but you were going to make him struggle to get shit because you wanted to look good too. That's kind of the flavor of this. I love that Becky pushed Charlotte off the top to the floor when she was going for her moonsault, and she goes instead face first into the barricade. But then Charlotte immediately, as Becky is coming, immediately drops Becky on the barricade after she just took that big bump. They just, that was a little rushed, but they crawled into the ring with the mean faces and started slapping the piss out of each other. And Charlotte did that modified gotch lift on Becky and got a 2 count. And they traded some taters. If all girls matches were like this, I would watch them, because they weren't just running through arranged, choreographed spots here. They were working. Becky was going for her armbar at first, and Charlotte was trying to stop her. And then later on, Charlotte would go for the leg, for the figure four, whatever. But it was a fight. I enjoyed it to the point where I wasn't just sitting here, making notes. Then finally, Becky got the figure four on Charlotte, but Charlotte reversed it, and the fans were into it. At least I heard them, but it seemed like they were liking this as well when you would see the fans. Charlotte finally did the moonsault off the top and mostly missed, unfortunately, but we could have bought it that she got her with the elbow because they went down in a heap, but she doesn't have to do that one every single time. But finally, they traded the chops. Boom, boom, boom. And then suddenly, Charlotte gets the roll up and hold the rope, but the referee catches it. And as he's admonishing her, then Becky rolls through on the roll up and holds the ropes, and the referee counts 3. Out of nowhere, after that great of a match, is a little flat on that one, but the match was almost 20 minutes and it flew by. I didn't get tired of it, which I can barely say about almost any matches from any company anymore. But I thought the finish was a little but Becky was going to win. They had to have Becky win. So it's, I'm not going to harp on it, but it's been done many times, many ways. Merry Christmas to you. What'd you think?
You said the match was flying by. Leaves are right now flying by the window of the office here in Last Manor as the gardener appears to have picked. Now is the moment. He's going to get all the leaves off the property. Thanks, gardener.
Hey, Ollie, what's the weather forecast?
Oh, boy, this is loud. Well, I apologize that it sounds like I'm in Vietnam right now, ladies and gentlemen. I thought the match was good. Starting the show off with it. Boy, it's fucking loud. Starting the show off with it. I don't know if I should be yelling or that. I can't hear anything. Starting the show off with this.
I'm Robin Leach on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. I'm screaming, and I don't know why.
It was a blessing and a curse because nothing else on the show could live up to this. And also, I don't know, because they started with it right away, it kind of killed any anticipation day of for it. And he's right outside the window, so I will turn it back to you and I'll reserve thought for later.
But yes, why don't you reserve your thoughts? I got it so quiet now. I feel like E.F. Hutton just spoke. Once you saw this, because the other stuff, people were ready for this. There was a personal issue. Imagine that. Personal issues draw money. And the people were ready for this. And once they saw it, was there a personal issue in the men's 5 versus 5 elimination? Was there a personal issue in the female? Well, there were some, but who gives a shit? Because there's 10 people out there. The Usos, Orton and Riddle, come on. They underestimated, I think, the interest, not only that people would have in this match, but also the quality of the match and the other stuff having to follow it. And now they're going close to 4 hours with 6 matches. The break in between each match where they'll show you commercials and packages and every other kind, and egg hunts. And then the entrances, when one match is over with, it's sometimes 15 minutes or more before another one starts. And it's a slog to get through.
Do you think this is what the match should have been, though? I mean, obviously they have to work together, so you have to work together, but should it have been anything more intense? Is there anything it was missing?
No, because they couldn't go out and have a shoot. Like, to work a shoot like 2 guys, especially. Well, and a lot of guys can't work a shoot these days, but amongst somebody with a vaulter, or somebody like a Kurt Angle with those skills, or somebody with a high-level MMA background that can translate it to wrestling, not like Junior Dos Santos trying to pull punches and he couldn't hurt Aunt Lola. They might have gone for a shorter, more intense worked shoot, but this is not, and everybody knows it's neither Charlotte's nor Becky's background. I'm not saying they're neither one athletes, and Charlotte was a high-level, I guess, volleyball player and et cetera, but they don't have 10 fucking 15 years of Gracie jiu-jitsu in their background. So the people were waiting to see a testy, contested, worked match. Is it going to break loose like Charlotte and Nia Jax did, where they just start slapping each other? There were stiff shots taken. I think they did what they could do with it. And they took some liberties with each other, probably agreed to beforehand, because each one of them probably wanted to be able to do the same thing. So we'll work like that.
Well, Jim, if I may say something from here in Beirut, I just want to say...
Are you coming in now? I can hear you.
Can you hear me? I just want to say...
You have to report on the aircraft carrier.
I just want to say that perhaps Charlotte Flair and Becky can remember the good times with a fine oil painting.
Well, that would be perfect if they could do that, and they could caption it in happier times. And I know exactly where they could get one. Our friends at Paint Your Life, folks, our fine friends at paintyourlife.com, and a team of world-class artists that work with them can take any photograph or combination of photographs and make a truly unique and personal gift for the holidays for that special person in your life this season. You can bring generations of your family together, even if they were never in the same place at the same time. You can have a cherished pet painted, or a beloved vacation spot, or any type of thing. If you've got a photograph, they can transfer it into a fine quality oil painting from a team of world-class artists. If your grandmother always wished that your grandfather could have been around to have a picture together with all the grandkids, now they can do that at Paint Your Life. All you got to do is go to paintyourlife.com, choose from a team of world-class artists, work with them on the details, order a custom-made, hand-painted portrait, and get that portrait in about 3 weeks. It's meaningful, personal. It can be cherished forever and loved and hugged and squeezed and called George. It makes the perfect holiday gift for somebody you love, or if you love yourself, you can get one of these for yourself also. Hey, self-love, we're all in favor of it. If you love yourself up to 5 times a day, you can still have a fine quality painting from Paint Your Life. And right now, at paintyourlife.com, there is no risk, because if you don't love the final painting, your money is refunded. And right now, as a limited time going into the holidays, the big offer, get 20% off your painting and free shipping. 20% off your painting and free shipping. All you got to do to get the special offer, text the word DRIVE, D-R-I-V-E, to 64,000. That's DRIVE to 64,000 for 20% off and free shipping. This incredible holiday gift for some loved one, or even actually if you want to have a painting yourself, giving somebody the finger and send it to somebody you don't like, I bet they do that too. Text DRIVE to 64,000. Paint Your Life. Celebrate the moments that matter most.
That's right. And I'm here, of course. You can hear in the background the Enola Gay rolling down the tarmac, captained by Colonel Paul Tibbets. Well, what else was on Survivor Series, Jim?
Since you're getting ready to transport this bomb, I'll finish dropping it for you. They had a nice Drew McIntyre history profile, the rise and fall and rise again and potentially fall again of Drew McIntyre. Then they went with the men's 5 versus 5 elimination. Bobby Lashley, Austin Theory, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, and Seth Rollins on the Raw team. And remember, we did a preview of this and said, boy, SmackDown sounds like they're going to be in bad shape. And that came to pass. The SmackDown team, King Xavier Woods, Jeff Hardy, Sheamus, Happy Corbin, and Drew McIntyre. But it wasn't as one-sided as that would lead you to believe. After the 14 minutes of entrances for this match, the very first thing happened was Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins got in an argument because they were teammates, and Kevin Owens got all fired up and went to start and then said, you know what, and rolled out and took a walk and got counted out. So He didn't want to participate at all. Did he not do that a while back on another one of these? Was it last year's Survivor Series or some other time where he was placed in a situation where he didn't want to be in and or was it somebody else did the same thing?
I'm not exactly sure. It sounds like him. His gimmick is that he's difficult, I think.
Yeah, well, yes. And boy, talk about living your gimmick. So anyway, Austin Theory got a chance to do some things, body language, facial, selling like a heel, timing. He's tremendous. Rollins athletically is a step above most everybody on the roster, as we've mentioned many times. And just what they've done with his various multiple personalities leaves a lot to be desired. Sheamus, I noticed even in this company especially, looks like a radiation mutant. Have you, like, he looks like some one-celled amoeba that would crawl from the pond somewhere that has been radiated and form into a human-like shape, but he would still be translucent and you'd be able to see through him. It was very, very mutantish. Jeff Hardy at one point tagged into the match, clapped his hands, get the people clapping, and tagged back out. Which, as we saw, may have been the best use of Jeff in this company. Every time I see Jeff Hardy, I think he's going to hurt himself. He looks like he might be in pain. He doesn't take any of his bumps early in the match. He saves a couple, like the Swanton, for at the end, but he always looks like he's wearing a full bodysuit. I don't know whether he's going to crack into pieces or not. Do you get that impression?
I guess. I hadn't thought of it that way.
I did. He doesn't. I mean, because all the injuries he's had and all the bumps he's taken and however old he is now, I can't remember. Probably closing in on 45, isn't he?
If him staying here means we don't get the Hardy Boys in AEW, please stay here. That's my.
Oh, well, I'm not suggesting he fucking leave. I just worry about it. But anyway, there was a point there suddenly for no reason in the match. Everybody jumped in and just started hitting moves on the next guy in turn. Bing, 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 bing. And finally, Balor hit the double stomp on hapless Corbin, so we got rid of him. And then they got heat on Jeff Hardy, but it was very slow. And you could tell they're not picking him up and planting him, often. Suddenly they're getting the heat on Jeff Hardy, and then Lashley ran Drew McIntyre into the ring post and put him out, and Jeff hot tagged Woods, and Woods made a comeback, but suddenly Lashley just speared him and put the hurt lock on him. So there's the king of the ring. Boom, done. And I'm not even mad at Xavier Woods, but it's just, they just decide, well, somebody's been in the middle of the card or a tag team or whatever for all of it. We'll make that guy the champion in 2 weeks. We'll make that guy the king of the ring, and everybody gets a turn. They had a big sloppy 6-way with everybody that was left in this thing, and everybody got wiped out, as so that they could get McIntyre and
Did you manage him? You managed him, McIntyre, right?
No, that was Mantar.
Oh, that's right. That's
cousin Mantar. McIntyre. God damn it, McIntyre. And Lashley go face to face, and forever they just stood there. And then they had a kind of an awkward fight. I think it's a Styles clash. And then they just planted it. Lashley would plant him, and then McIntyre would come back up and plant him. And they fought out onto the floor and went over the barricade, and both of them got counted out. They were on the floor. And again, I'm screaming, why is nobody counted out? And why do they just act like they can go out there and spend all day? This was the shortest period of time that two guys have been fighting on the floor since I've been watching wrestling the last fucking year, and they got counted out. And the people hated it. You could hear that they were booing at first. I don't know how long they booed. Maybe they did something about it, but they hated that particular finish, that both guys get counted out after being on the floor for a fraction of the time that they see people in regular matches getting away with it every fucking day, right? So that's where you lead to shit like this. When you do a finish that's correct after a long period of time of not doing the correct finish, the people don't like the correct finish. Not that this one was set the world on fire to begin with, but they get the people to start booing when somebody actually enforces the rules. So then, besides the fact that that flattened the match out and made both guys look fairly stupid, then they had more people do more stuff. Sheamus beat Balor 1-2-3. Theory's got a great drop kick. And they were left with Rollins and Theory against Sheamus and Hardy. And Hardy had barely been involved at that point. And I thought, okay, Rollins and Theory are going to win this thing. That elevates Theory to the level of Rollins, who's been a main event guy there for some time. They're both youthful. Theory, obviously, more than Rollins, but they'll look good together, and that helps elevate Austin Theory, right? And Sheamus has been around forever, so's Jeff Hardy. It ain't going to hurt them. They're getting beat. That's where I'm already looking, right? Well, then it started going at a snail's pace, and old Sheamus cold-tagged Hardy, who made a block comeback, and everybody got mixed up and in each other's way. And I was just starting to write, this will not end, why don't they go home? And Theory suddenly beat Sheamus by holding his tights. That was fine. And then Sheamus gets up and knocks Theory out, and then turns around and knocks Hardy out. What the? So now we've switched complete attention from, isn't this going to get Theory over by him and Rollins winning this thing, to why the fuck did old Sheamus just knock out his opponent and his partner? But then Rollins frog splashes Hardy, which would have been perfect way. Okay, then there's your victory. He gets a 2 count. Hardy kicked out. Well, it was there. It was fucking there. But no. Theory and Rollins go for a double superplex on Jeff Hardy. Hardy foils it and hits a swanton on Austin Theory 1-2-3. Seriously. So basically what's happened here is the guy that he's iconic, Jeff Hardy. He's not going to get any less over, but he's not going to get any more over. And it would have been a perfect position for him to get beat by these two young guns. Instead, Sheamus hits him with a knockout blow, and Rollins frog splashes him, and he kicks out of that and turns around and beats Theory, even though he looks like he's ready to break in half. And now it's down to Rollins versus Jeff. And finally, Jeff hit a twist of fate and then went for the swan